There are moments in history that arrive without warning. Moments when ordinary lives are interrupted in the middle of the night, and everything changes forever. In Latvia, two such moments came in 1941 and 1949. They did not begin with war on the streets or explosions in the distance. They began with a knock on the door, and by morning, tens of thousands of people were gone. This is the story of deportations, when Latvian families were taken from their homes and sent thousands of kilometers away to Siberia. To understand these events, we have to go back to the beginning of the World War II. In 1939, a secret agreement known as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact divided Eastern Europe into spheres of influence. Latvia fell under the control of the Soviet Union. In the 1940s, the Soviet Union occupied Latvia, ending its independence. What followed was not immediate destruction, but something quieter, more systematic. Across Latvia, Soviet authorities carried out a coordinated operation, later known as the June deportation. Families were awakened in the middle of the night by armed officers. They were given little time, sometimes less than an hour, to gather their belongings. Then they were taken. Men, women, and children were separated. Men were often sent to labor camps. Women and children were loaded into cattle cars and transported east. In total, around 15,000 people from Latvia were deported in just a few days. Their destinations were remote regions of Siberia and Central Asia. The journey itself could take weeks. Conditions were harsh. Overcrowded wagons, little food, limited water. Many did not survive the trip. For those who arrived, survival became the only goal. They were placed in forced settlements or labor camps where they faced extreme cold, hunger, and exhausting work. Temperatures could drop far below freezing. Food was scarce. Disease spread easily. Families who had been separated often never reunited. Children grew up in exile far from their homeland. And yet, even these conditions, people tried to hold on their identity, their language, their memories, their sense of who they were. Just days after the 1941 deportations, Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union. Latvia fell under German occupation during the war. But in 1944, Soviet forces returned, and with them came another wave of repression. This time it will be even larger. On March 25, 1949, the Soviet regime launched another massive operation, known as Operation Priboi. The scale was much greater than in 1941. Over 40,000 people in Latvia were deported within a few days. This time the targets were different. Many were farmers, landowners, or anyone suspected of opposing Soviet policies, especially collectivization. Entire families were removed, including the elderly and young children. Again, they were transported in cattle cars. Again, they were sent thousands of kilometers away. The goal was not only punishment, it was control. By removing large parts of the population, the Soviet authorities aimed to break resistance and reshape society. Combined, the deportations of 1941 and 1949 affected tens of thousands of Latvian families. Many never returned, some died in camps. Others remained in exile for decades. For those who did come back, the experience left deep scars. Homes had been lost, communities had changed, lives had been permanently altered. These events were not just political actions, they were human tragedies, repeated thousands of times in thousands of homes. Today, these deportations are remembered as some of the darkest chapters in Latvia's history. Memorials stand across the country. Each year people gather to honor those who were taken. The dates June 14 and March 25 are marked with remembrance ceremonies, silence and reflection, because remembering is important. Not only to honor those who suffered, but to understand what happened and why. The story of the deportations is not just about the past. It is about the consequences of power used without limits. About what happens when individuals are reduced to numbers and entire groups are seen as obstacles. It is also about resilience, about people who endured unmanageable conditions and still held on their identity. The trains that left Latvia in 1941 and 1949 carried more than people. They carried lives, memories and futures into uncertainty. Many never came back, but their stories did, and today they remain, not only in history books, but in families, in memories, and in the quiet understanding of what was lost. Because some events do not fade with time, they become part of who a nation is.